Some of them are just simply evil people.
You say an act of war.
Yes.
Do you believe that if another country is somehow the patron of an individual or a group of individuals who has done this, we should go to war with that country?
Absolutely.
Debris, including a chunk of the plane, was scattered across the Pentagon.
There is a bulge in the wall. Several windows are smashed out. There's debris from the plane in the courtyard that the FBI and NTSB are marking as evidence and photographing and collecting, but there's no plane protruding through the wall.
3 of the so-called rings of the Pentagon filled with jet fuel, spewing it everywhere and burning the entire section to the point that it collapsed. It is unimaginable to be sitting in your office and feel the entire building shake and then walk out there 3 minutes after the impact and see the devastation and the parts of airplanes spread for hundreds of feet all across the side of the building is an appalling situation.
You know that at the Pentagon today there has been a pinging from the black box on board the aircraft that slammed into the Pentagon yesterday. Have you any idea when you'll be able to get it out?
Well, it's probably in the nose, and the nose is buried well into the building, almost through the building, but not quite. It's in the 3rd or 4th ring coming in towards the center.
We were one of the only TV crews allowed on the grounds of the Pentagon this evening. In fact, our tapes had to be reviewed by the FBI before we could show them to you this evening. We joined the Montgomery County Urban Search and Rescue Team from Rockville. That's the same team that went to the Oklahoma City bombing and rescued people in that disaster. We rode from their headquarters in Rockville in a bus and set up fort about 75 yards from the hole in the Pentagon that we have been looking at all day. There are about 30 to 40 members in this team with 3 search dogs. They go into the Pentagon for 3 hours at a time. When they come out, they tell us that they see concrete upon concrete, electrical wires everywhere, desks teetering on the edge of floors that have been blown away, and of course bodies of people who did not survive the tragedy. We did see the FBI agents bringing out bags upon bags of evidence. We saw a designated area for plane parts. There was not a piece larger than 2 feet. The Montgomery County Rescue Team has set up a fort in what has become a tent city on the grounds of the Pentagon.
That was a piece of the building that had been recently finished.
Apparently the new reinforcements made a difference. These red beams that were added. So they're going to have to drop this section building?
They are. They're going to have to find a way. They've been propping up the 2 sides, and then they're going to have to try to take balls and break through so that it's sufficiently stable for people to go in and see that if they can recover whatever bodies are there, and then begin removing the debris.
How far into here do you wander during the course of it?
Oh, I've been in. Of course, there was no one here except about 6 or 8 people pulling some bodies out of the area. The people had been burned badly and injured. And there wasn't, of course, a vehicle here, except there was a fire truck over here that was on fire. It was the fire truck for this helipad that you see. And a few cars were burning, and the whole building was in flames.
The aircraft came from right over here.
From over here, hit a light.
A couple of light poles.
Yeah, and then came in about between the 1st and 2nd floor over here. And it went in through 3 rings. I'm told the nose is still in there, very close to the inner courtyard, about 1 ring away.
So the flight recorder may still be in the nose, for all we know.
It's conceivable. When I came around that corner, you could see pieces way up there at the far end of the airplane. It's not unique to the Pentagon or New York. It's across the globe. There are a number of people and organizations and countries that have consciously decided to use terrorism to impose their will on others and to deny others the freedom and the ability to go about their business and live their lives. And the United States of America is a free country where everything about us is that everyone can do what they wish and go where they wish and think what they wish and say what they wish. And the purpose of terrorism is to terrorize people. It's to prevent people from having that freedom and to prevent people from being able to enjoy their lives and be free of the others imposing their will on them.
First of all, did the Bush administration gain from September 11th? Answer, yes. Does that tell you anything? No. Every authoritarian system in the world gained from September 11th, and it was immediately predictable. I mean, I remember my first interviews with journalists a couple hours afterwards. The first question I was asked is, about this, and I said, look, every power system in the world is cheering. The Russians love it. It's giving them an excuse to increase their atrocities in Chechnya under the pretext that they're defending themselves from terror. The Chinese love it. They're going to step up their atrocities in Western China against the Uyghurs, claiming its defense against terror. Indonesia loves it. They're going to go on a rampage in Aceh and massacre everyone because they have to defend themselves against terror. Ariel Sharon will, go wild in the occupied territories because we have to protect ourselves from terror. And so it continues. In fact, just about every country, I mean, the more violent ones just extended their own violence, but the less violent ones, say like England or the United States or France, immediately imposed what they call protection against terrorism acts of one kind or another, which had almost nothing to do with terror, but a lot to do with disciplining their own populations. So if you take a look around the world, the more what are called the more democratic societies instituted mechanisms of control of their population under the pretext of defending themselves against terror.
Believe in freedom to be less free. Charlie.
Mr. Secretary, did you have any inkling at all in any way that something of this nature and something of this scope might be planned?
Charlie, we don't discuss intelligence matters.
Mr. Secretary, what do you say to the American people who may have questions on how something so coordinated has been carried out against this nation? What do you say to them who might not have confidence that our intelligence...
On the right of the hole there has already collapsed. The part on the left is sheared off. But
did you see the aircraft come down?
No, I did not see the aircraft.
Okay. So, and how were they able to go in, the urban search and rescue, with all the flames?
Well, they've only a few fire personnel have been inside the building so far. And after they confirmed that there was some people, the FBI went in.
Pentagon site, pings have been heard from the black box of the plane that crashed into the building. 190 are believed now dead at the Pentagon.
Just looking at the way the structure of the building here, the way it's collapsed down on a lean-to.
Got a lean-to collapse. I was talking to a friend, a major friend of mine in the Army, who was calling up to ask if I had heard about the World Trade Center, and of course I did. Everybody in the Pentagon did. The whole Pentagon was abuzz that morning with the video footage of that. And she jokingly told me, the Pentagon is probably next. You ought to get out of there. And we sort of chuckled about that. And she said again, I'm serious, David. You really ought to get out of there. And it was at that moment that I've described it as the gates of hell open. And frankly, that there is a vacuum that happens on impact, and the air in my lungs were just sucked out.
Well, with shooting down of commercial aircraft that were suspected to be controlled by terrorists, were you there when that order was given?
No, I was not. I was made aware of it during the time that the airplane coming in to the Pentagon, there was a young man who would come in and say to the vice president, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, do the orders still stand? And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary? Well, at the time I didn't know what all that meant. And
the flight you're referring to is the
flight that came into the
investigation into who caused all this continues to point toward Osama bin Laden. It also slows the hunt for the plane's cockpit voice recorder, which could answer so many questions about the final moments.
A large part of the left completely disagrees on this and has all kind of elaborate conspiracy theories and, about how it happened and why it happened and so on. But I think it just, first of all, I think it's completely wrong, but also I think it's diverting people away from serious issues. I mean, it just doesn't make it. I mean, even if we're true, which is extremely unlikely, who cares? I mean, it doesn't have any significance.
Ending states who sponsor terrorism.
Ending states who sponsor terrorism means taking on not just Afghanistan, but countries like Iran and Iraq.